welcome to another edition of KeyThoughts, my musings on this great game of KeyForge that has now been revitalized by Ghost Galaxy. And this week I am going to be bringing you some thoughts and opinions about Alliance, because that is the new hot thing. Maybe it's just the new thing in KeyForge. And I had the privilege of listening to Sydney and Chris talk about it on the most recent episode of Help from Future Self. And I thought Chris gave some really great insight into choosing an alliance deck, building an alliance deck, all these sort of things that you need to go about when you are going to go through that journey. Because for, I think, a lot of us, that could be a new experience, both in trying to do something constructed or maybe not really wanting to be a part of a constructed scene. But because KeyForge is a game we love, we're going to now give it a shot. So it's kind of a new area that we're diving into. Now, this episode, I am going to actually just speak on my own philosophy of how I wish to approach this. And I will be doing a follow-up video to this one, which is me basically building an alliance deck. And I'll tell you the way I'm going to go about doing it. And then she'll go through it in that episode. So the ways I think you can go about alliance, and the main way I wish to actually build alliance decks, is to find decks that I currently do not play, and they have a really great house, but maybe the other two are absolute garbo, so therefore they do not see the light of day. Neither does the deck, because it just can't win, even though there's a really great house in it. So this is really where I want to focus my attention on building alliance. So that being said, I don't know if truly competitive alliance, like Vault Tour style alliance play, is going to be my cup of tea. I'm not sure I will attend those events, just because I think what we will see result over time is some really great decks that are, to use lack of a better term, broken. Now, I believe it was Zach and Jake were talking on Call of Discovery about the concept of having or maybe this was Chris, I can't remember now. But anyways, between those two podcasts, you should listen to both because they're both quite good. Having a rotating restricted list so nothing can ever be, it was Chris who said this, now I remember. Having a rotating restricted list, I think, could be a very healthy thing for the game, so that anything that wins can kind of be rotated out and brought back in. It gives a chance for things that could be truly broken to not exist, or to only exist for a moment, and then something else has to be done. And it creates a great, I think, back and forth with choosing how you want to build. Now, how I want to build is, like I said, I think the simplest way of doing it is finding a deck you really like to play, and then realizing there is one house that just doesn't work, or there is an aspect that is lacking from the infrastructure we look to build, or not build, look to use in a KeyForge game. So obviously that's going to be board presence, it could be Ember control, it could be board control, artifact control, whatever you hold in esteem that you feel is not present in this deck that you do like to play, but you notice one of the houses ends up falling short of helping you round out what you really want to do. So this gives you the opportunity to do a very minor tweak. And there's a couple decks that I think I will go this way, which is just basically like, okay, let's remove that one house. What is lacking? Choose the parameter that is lacking. Find one that is not going to let you down and provide that support, and then sub that in. So that is the simplest way, I think, where you're doing very minimal kind of construction and just looking to fill the gap. Now, if you want to go even further than that, then use that same deck that maybe has just one house that you're like, this house has what I'm looking for. I think, honestly, key cheats are going to be the greatest common denominator that you see built, as people are building as many key cheats as possible. Make it so your opponent cannot respond. And I both love and hate that, because that is a methodology that I do employ myself. for certain things, but I also think that it takes away the back and forth, and the question and answer aspect of KeyForge, I think, is one of the best parts of the game that could be removed in that regard, because you can't respond directly to an opponent's action. You must wait until their turn's done and then respond as a whole. So it allows them to do consecutive things, obviously. Now, if you want to go really deep into this, you can start looking for combos and then searching for your decks and choosing different things. I mean, you could always go through 3 houses and you look at the stats and you wish to build based on stats. So you want to have a high C, high A, and then a high E. And you just build 3 houses that are contribute to maximizing those qualities and seeing how it works. Now, like any KeyForge deck, it's going to take some repetition of playing to truly understand, does it do what you think it does? The difference, I think, here from other times playing KeyForge is when you just have a deck and you like things about it, but there's things you don't like, you actually play it and then you kind of figure out some neat things and you have the discovery. I think Alliance, you are removing discovery, not entirely, but it doesn't hold the same weight because you are in control over not having something there that if you just left it, it could maybe reveal some interesting things, some plays, some lines that you never have done before, never seen. But because you are not forced to work with that, you now no longer have that as a route and something that could happen in the game's economy. So that's one kind of caveat to trying to fully build something. So what I recommend people do, and what I'm going to do is most of my, I think, Alliance decks, I'm literally just going to look for decks I never play and utilize my collection further and discover pods that are really cool that I don't play because overall in the deck they're not that great. That is my preferred way of playing Alliance. And I recognize that going to a Vault Tour like event, a premier play event, that will probably not be the best route. But if I'm having a great time and playing KeyForge and interacting with the community, I think that's the way I'm going to approach it. And I'm okay with that. For those of you who are very unsure about deck building, and like I said, you have to test, is I think actually finding a deck that has two of 3 you like, and then you swap one out, play a bunch with it, see how it goes, and then decide if maybe the second house, so we'll call it, there's the main house, the secondary house, and then you're subbing in the third. So your main house, if you're finding it's not working with either the new pod that was put in, or you're finding that now the secondary pod, you're like, okay, now that I've seen the sub in work and it's really doing a lot, I can actually remove something I've been familiar with and add something new in and try and see how this now plays with that. So I actually think an incremental deck building may be the best way if you're unsure of how to do it. So keep KeyForge in its most simplest state and then build on it and do more and sub out and see what you like. And then if you're like, you know what, I'm actually finding these 2 houses I subbed in are playing really well together, but the main house I originally started with is not doing what I wanted to do. And I think if I had this element of KeyForge from this house present, that would actually be a lot stronger with these other 2 that I originally built together. And you can just kind of see over time how things come together and just test and play and feel it out. It's kind of a very exciting aspect in KeyForge. I am a little biased because I've been playing a lot of SoulForge, for those of you who are not aware, but I've had lots on this channel. And by allowing yourself to bring things together and discover combos and things that work, it's actually a lot of fun, and it provides a different kind of discovery, because you still are doing discovery at the end of the day, because you're now able, instead of, like, if you got like 700 decks, for example, not making a personal reference here, LOL, you are then, instead of having one deck, you now actually can say all those decks times 3, because now you have different combinations you can start putting together. Even more, actually, because they all can go in different ways. But I think a slight incremental change, going pod by pod, subbing, is a really great way of doing it if you are feeling unfamiliar, or like you're in kind of territory that is not familiar to you, you're not used to deck building. I don't really mind this at all. I do think that the core of KeyForge, of having to figure out how a deck plays, is its greatest quality and why I enjoy the game the most. That being said, it's not gone. It's just we have now different formats to attract more players to the game, which I think is going to be very great and really healthy in the long term. So I'm looking forward to getting to enjoy this game in different formats, and I can't wait to have some real life KeyForge nights where we get to see this in action. So that's all I want to share for this, is kind of how I want to go about building a deck, how I'm going to go about building a deck. And for those who are not too sure about this, maybe some, I guess, starting points for you. Now, please tune in to the next episode, which should drop in a day or two, and you can catch on there me going about building a deck. And I have one that is very specific I want to try out, and I have a couple different ideas that I will share with all of y'all when the time comes. So hope you enjoyed this. Please let me know your thoughts and your approach to doing Alliance Archon, and leave it in the notes below. Please share this video with others you think may benefit from finding out about this. And as always, folks, may your ember never be stolen and your keys forged promptly. Have a good one.